Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into an explainer that completely blurs the lines between astrophysics, science fiction, and, believe it or not, profound spirituality. We're going to be unpacking a highly unusual premise, a text that makes an absolutely wild claim about one of the most famous scientific minds in human history. I really want you to hold this question in your mind as we go through this. What if the sheer brilliance we all observed in Dr. Stephen Hawking wasn't entirely human? What if, and this is exactly what the text we're analyzing today claims, his immense intellect was actually that of an extraterrestrial scout planted right here on Earth to prep for a devastating planetary invasion slated for the year 2037? It's a massive, literally paradigm-shifting claim, and we're going to break down exactly how the author constructs this incredibly bizarre narrative. So, to wrap our heads around this, we have to look at our primary source material. We're looking at Ryuho Okawa's book, which dives deep into this alien threat theory. Now, the author doesn't approach this through, traditional investigative journalism. Instead, he uses a process he calls a spiritual reading. Basically, the book claims to tap directly into the subconscious, the very soul of Dr. Stephen Hawking. Today, we're just going to remain completely neutral, step back, and examine the fascinating ideas and the step-by-step claims presented in this text. Okay, moving into section 1, the space soul reading. Let's dive right into this. The author proposes a radical idea straight out of the gate, in the very first chapter. After conducting this remote spiritual viewing, the text claims Dr. Hawking's soul is not actually of earthly origin. Nope. Instead, he supposedly comes from an incredibly advanced alien civilization located in a star system called Centaurus Minor. And we're talking about a society with scientific technology that is leaps and bounds ahead of anything we have here on Earth. Which brings us to section 2, origins in Centaurus Minor. So during this spiritual interview, the entity is asked to describe its true physical form. And the response? It's pretty striking. It explicitly states it is not human. It says it stands upright with a broad chest, but its face is completely alien. It actually describes having, quote, big eyes like an insect or an owl. It specifically notes these eyes are vertical, kind of resembling the compound eyes of an insect made up of all these tiny cells of light. The text itself almost like a transcript of a really startling interrogation. Like when the interviewer asks if the soul has the features of an animal, it just bluntly replies, yeah, not human. This vivid, kind of unsettling imagery of vertical, glowing insect eyes is used to establish just how utterly alien this intelligence truly is to the reader. All right, let's look at section 3, the 2037 invasion plan. According to this spiritual reading, these beings from Centaurus Minor, they are not peaceful explorers. Not at all. They have a highly coordinated, massive invasion of Earth planned out, and the text zeroes in on a very specific timeline, the year 2037. The entity claims that leading up to this exact year, Earth is going to experience a whole bunch of conflicts, which the aliens will then use as a super convenient pretext to just swoop in and take control. And the attack strategy outlined in the text is designed to make human resistance mathematically impossible. First up, advanced electromagnetic pulses, or EMPs. These are meant to instantly disable all electrical systems, wiping out our global radar and nuclear defenses in literally a second. Second, the deployment of unknown, highly lethal viruses. And finally, and this is definitely the most chilling detail, the text claims a primary motive for this whole invasion is to actually harvest humanity as a food source. The author really methodically breaks down this inescapable threat. The entity coldly explains that our earthly nuclear weapons are totally useless, because the aliens will simply destroy our electrical command systems first, causing jets to just plummet right out of the sky. Plus, they plan to preemptively strike using biological warfare. Since these aliens are supposedly vulnerable to earthly pathogens, they plan to infect humans with a lethal virus first, essentially treating humanity as a contaminated food source that needs to be culled. Now, section 4, infiltration and ideology. The text then introduces a specific faction that is supposedly already operating here on Earth, the mantis-type alien, which is described as a subspecies of reptilian. According to the reading, these entities aren't just hiding in the shadows. They are literally swapping bodies with human souls. They're operating inside human vessels to conduct covert espionage right under our noses. So the really crucial point here is that humanity is facing a two-front war in this narrative. You've got the physical threat, those mantis-type aliens physically infiltrating society, and that impending military strike in 2037. But equally dangerous is the ideological threat. The text claims these aliens are actively working to spread materialism and atheism all across the globe. Why? Well, because if they can strip humanity of its spiritual pillars, they destroy our mental and emotional resolve, and that makes the physical takeover incredibly easy. Which leads us to Section 5, the fatal weakness. Against weapons that can disable nuclear codes and viruses that can wipe out entire populations, the author proposes one ultimate countermeasure: faith. The book asserts that strong spiritual belief in the divine acts as an actual, well, literally an impenetrable shield. The aliens, who are fundamentally rooted in materialism, simply cannot comprehend or penetrate a truly faithful mind. It's a total blind spot for them. And this really builds the core underlying message of the book. The narrative puts forward the idea that earthly science absolutely cannot defeat extraterrestrial science. The technological gap is just way too wide. Therefore, the only way to block the invasion and basically render their physical and psychological attacks completely useless is through the power of profound spiritual faith. People who possess this strong faith are, according to the text, essentially invisible and untouchable to the invaders. Which brings us to the ultimate question posed by this deeply unconventional explainer. In a hypothetical battle against overwhelming, highly advanced extraterrestrial technology, could humanity's greatest weapon actually be its faith? Ryuho Okawa's book uses the figure of Dr. Stephen Hawking to draw a massive contrast between the limits of material science and the boundless protective power of human spirituality. It is a really fascinating genre-bending narrative that gives us a whole lot to think about regarding where our true strengths might actually lie. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.